Hello everyone, this is chess expert Dave Velascom, and today I'm going to be showing you guys a series of endgame puzzles. I'm going to first start off with just a very basic position, and then we will add to it and add to it, and each time that we add some new element to it, we're going to reassess the position to see if our current analysis is still correct. So first of all though, I want you guys to answer a very important question. Is this current position a win for black, or is it a draw, or is it a loss? So go ahead and pause the video, study this, and figure out what the answer is. Alrighty, so if you're ready, black moves king out to c3, and black's idea is simply to win the pawn on a4. But after winning the pawn, because white's king is here in the corner, black is not able to win the game. If he tries to promote the pawn with a2, hoping for king out to c1, white could instead play king out to a1, and this ends up being a stalemate if black plays king out to a3, and that would be a draw. And then of course if the king were to move away, then it's also a draw because it's no longer defending the a2 pawn, and white can simply capture that. So black cannot promote the pawn with white's king in the corner. And if the white king can get to the corner, black is not able to chase it away. So that would be a draw. Now let's go ahead and take this basic position and add just a little bit to it. Change it a little bit. Yeah, what would happen if we placed white's king on a8? And it was still black's turn to move. So is black going to be winning here, losing, or drawing? Go ahead and assess this position, and when you're ready, pause the video and we'll look at it. Okay, so black here is actually going to be completely winning. Yeah, the white king is simply trying to get over here to these squares. So maybe after king out to c5, black can simply play king out to b3, stopping king c4, and thus making it very difficult for white to get his king over to these squares. So white could try king out to d4, but white is not able to get over there in time to stop the pawn, and the pawn promotes. So therefore that would be losing for white, because the king is not able to get in front of the pawn in time. If the king is able to be in front of the pawn, then it's a draw. So that's very important. Let's go ahead and change this position a little bit more once again. I'm going to move these pawns down the board and add yet another pawn on the opposite side. So these are both rook pawns. So is white winning, drawing, or losing here? Go ahead and assess this position and see what the answer is. Alrighty, so black plays king out to e3. Therefore white follows the king in order to make sure that his king is going to be in front of the pawn. Well, it certainly does take the white king quite a lot of time to win this pawn and get back over here. Black is able to win an a3, and we can see that the white king is simply too far away to catch up to the pawn, and the pawn promotes. So therefore black would win pretty easily there. Okay, let's go ahead and change this once again and see if we can. Okay, so here, instead of the pawns being on the 3rd and 4th rank, they're now on the 4th and the 5th rank. And let's go ahead and see if that changes it. So it's still black's turn to move, and go ahead and pause this video, analyze this, and see if the result has changed or if it's still losing for white. Okay, so black plays king out to e3, king e1, and black is simply going to go after this pawn. Now white plays king out to d2 here. So that way when black captures a pawn, white can play king out to f4 and basically prevent the king from getting over here as easily. And this gives white a little bit more time to win the pawn in h5. So after king h3, simply king out to f3, and this would be a draw if the kings kept moving. So therefore black must play h4, and by pushing the pawn one square down the board, it will allow white's king to get to the pawn a little bit faster. And so this will actually allow white to draw, which is pretty fascinating. So king takes here on a4, and then we have king out to d2, king b3, king out to c1, and the white king is able to get out to those squares. Now, if black plays king out to a2, then king out to c2, and once again, if the king's moved, then it would just be a draw by repetition, because if that king cannot get around the white king. So after a4, king out to c3 would be good. If king to b1, then simply king to b4. So therefore, the pawn would have to be pushed. Then king to c2, and this would be a draw because the king cannot escape the corner. And then, of course, a2 would be a draw by stalemate. So that would be pretty good for white. Now, if we were to take this a step back, and this is very fascinating. We saw that white, first of all, moved with the king. Then when the king got over to f3, king out to d2 was played, and the king was able to shield with king f4. So in this position, if instead, if white had continued with king out to f1, then it would have been very difficult, because white is now going to be 2 squares away from the pawn. The pawn is on the 5th rank instead of the 4th rank. And so this is actually going to cost white a little bit more time to win this pawn, which means that the game will no longer be a draw, but will actually be completely winning for black. Yeah, simply king out to b2, and black is 1 move ahead, and therefore the game is not a draw. So let's go ahead and take a look at this once again. After king out to e1, king f3, if king f1, then white will be down by, white will have two moves to make with the king. But if king out to d2 is played, this is a little bit different because white is able to force black to promote the pawn. If the king just moves, then it would be a draw. So the king can't just move. Black has to at some point. I don't know why the king moved out to f4. That's kind of interesting. But king f3, and then we have h4. So this basically forces the pawn, so that way black can break his king out. But this allows white to be just a little bit closer to the pawn and be able to capture it much faster, and thus get the king over here in time and draw the game. So it's that important. Just one extra move is simply that important. And of course here, if a4, then king out to b1. Okay, let's go ahead and reset this position. So would our assessment change if the pawns were all the way back here? Would anything change? So go ahead and analyze this position, study it, and see if anything has changed. Alright, so let's just say that black goes after the pawns once again, and white chases. Well, this is pretty interesting. White doesn't have to step to the side of the king here. White can actually step in front, and because the pawns are so far back, the white king is still able to draw this, which is pretty fascinating. Yeah, this will still end up being a draw. Yep, and the white king is able to get back to b1 and a1 and get in front of the pawn, and it's a draw. So it's pretty interesting that stepping to the side is only important in drawing the game if the pawns are on the 4th and the 5th rank. If the pawns are farther back than the 4th and the 5th rank, then the white king doesn't have to step in front to draw the game. I mean, doesn't have to step to the side to draw the game, like this way. Yeah, because only here does the white king have to step to the side. If the pawns are farther back, like this direction, then the white king can actually step in front and not have to step to the side to draw the game, which is pretty interesting. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.